some of the common themes like you've touched on, and I just want to make sure that we've covered them too. Like, so consistency was one of them. Like, how do I be consistent? So there's consistency, I think, with like, how do I consistently do the reward chart or the structure that I put in place? And then I feel like is a different, but this feeling of like, then every day starts to feel the same and kind of boring. And then the whole day just kind of stinks. And I feel like that can be the case too. So like, I guess, I don't know if somebody was saying consistency from that perspective, like, do you want to speak into that for a minute?
Yeah. Sue, I think this is dopamine. So go for it.
I think definitely, and that's one of the reasons we tap into that dopamine strategy that Sky suggested, in terms of really having a broad range of things that you can draw on to switch in and out. So even though as ADHD people we succeed better or have better outcomes when we have routines, we often don't like routines either. So so anything that we develop has to be really flexible, so that we can shift things in and out, and make adjustments when we need. But that sort of links in with what Sarah was talking about too, about working memory, because sometimes we forget about the other options. We just keep trying to do the thing that worked last week, and it's not working anymore, and that can sort of lead us into not trying anything new. So ways to sort of externalize all those tools by having a printed dopamine menu, or by having, I suppose, what we often call is like almost like a tool bag of things that you can use. So knowing that when something's not working, to go into your tool bag and, you know, get something else out, to try and shift things up. And sometimes that is, you know, a large part of what we focus in coaching is reinventing what you're doing so that it works again, or a new way of doing something so that you can continue with the strategy, particularly when you're trying to implement things with your children, because you want to sort of be keeping that consistency up, but you need to be able to keep it up. And the same with just your general routines, because the more settled you are, I suppose, the more able you are to support your family and their needs, which I think links into what a few people were asking about on the group about that emotional regulation, which I think those sorts of scenarios that you were talking about, Veronica, is probably when we're often likely to experience that emotional regulation, where there's sort of two main times, like the one time when you're just struggling and don't know what to do, or it's just overwhelming. That's certainly a factor, and that's when we need to start building in routines and strategies. But the other time is when, but this worked last week, why isn't it working now? You know, that can sort of trigger off a lot of that emotional regulation issues, because it's very frustrating, because you feel like you put all this effort in, and now suddenly it's like it's all out the window. And so remembering that there's always going to be a bit of that cycle, and that's okay. And then, you know, next month some of those things may come back into our life. I mean, there's a reason there's a Facebook group specifically designated to selling ADHD hobby items, because you know, we have a cycle where we, you know, we'll be really into something for a while and it's amazing for a while, but, you know, then being able to let it go and use the next thing is part of that sort of process, I suppose.
And that's why we build in so much of that flexibility. Like Sue said, it's not about this is your routine. If it changes even a little bit, it will be broken and you'll have to create a whole new one with us. It's like we're building that flexibility in so that when you get that time and it doesn't work for whatever reason, you, your kids, etc., you have that inbuilt, like, okay, no, I have a plan for how to like adjust this and get back on track, without having to reinvent the wheel.